This is Pixelated Audio, episode 96, and today we're listening to Tetris DS for the Nintendo DS.
All right, and welcome back to the bi-weekly video game music and retro gaming podcast, Pixelated Audio. We're your hosts. I'm Brian, and this is James.
Yeah, it's definitely good to be back after a very long and unexpected break.
Yeah, what kind of happened there? I guess we just decided to we were gonna take a little bit of a breather, and it was gonna be one episode, and then
kind of turned it into four.
And then we just, we knew we were going to get back into it. We weren't going anywhere. We just thought, if we're going to take a break now, this is the time. And no, it was kind of much deserved, I think.
Yeah, and the way that I thought about it was that, when you kind of spend multiple days staying up too late and you finally say, I'm going to take a nap, I'm a little bit tired, and then you end up sleeping for 12 hours. It's kind of what it was. We've been doing this for years now, and it kind of got to the point where things were starting to get very rushed and towards, we weren't finishing. I think the last episode we put out, we didn't finish our notes and stuff until the day we recorded, which is very unlike us. So
we're usually on top of stuff like well in advance.
Yeah.
And so I think, just all of our stuff was getting kind of pushed out, and we were just kind of scrambling a lot more than we want. And so
November, December is always very, very hard. Every year, including the first year that we did this show, we found that November and December were extremely difficult because of the holidays, and work tends to get busy. Everyone is trying to get ready to go on vacation.
Yeah.
So it just took a lot out of us, and now I think we're ready to go. We're very excited. It feels very weird being back in here in front of microphones again. But,
yeah.
We'll snap back into it pretty soon.
The whole time us taking our little brief hiatus there, we didn't decide. There wasn't one moment where we thought we don't want to continue the show. It was always just like, when are we going to get started again? And it was a few things came up last weekend, so we didn't record. I was sick, and then it was just like, okay, we'll give it one more week, and then we'll get back into it. But we're back, and we got some really great stuff lined up for 2018. I'm excited. We have a kind of featurette coming from Jane soon, so really excited about that. He's going to be talking about a topic we haven't really discussed yet, so there's going to be kind of like a mini series within Pixelated Audio. So I'm very stoked to see what he has. And today it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a little lighthearted. We haven't really done anything this cliche as far as game audio goes, but yeah.
Well, over this time off, we've definitely thought about some new things to do for the show, and we wanted to find a way to ease back into all this. So I think today's pick with Tetris DS is something kind of odd and unique, but it's going to be pretty easy for us to get back into the swing of things.
Yeah. So we typically don't play a lot of like music that you're going to hear today's first-party NES, Nintendo titles, like their theme music and stuff like that. We don't typically play that, but it doesn't mean that it's not great music.
Right.
It's excellent stuff. We're going to hear some really great kind of arrangements and remixes of that. That track that we came in with wasn't original, but it was borrowed heavily from a lot of the sound effects from those 8-bit games.
Oh, yeah.
And it was composed and arranged by Minako Hamano and Akira Fujiwara. And this track is super fun. This brings in like this really playful, exciting, kind of puzzle game that you're just going to fall in love with.
Oh, yeah. There were so many cool parts. It's all those Mario sound effects were very easy to pick out.
Right.
It was just very fun and just reminded you of just games in general. So
Yeah.
I thought it was a really cool opening track.
I love when, artists will kind of re-borrow like sound effects and turn those sound effects into like actual notes, and I think this is a really cool kind of iteration, kind of spin on like a classic Mario kind of thing. There's different sound effects I was trying to pick out. Like you can pick out the coin and like the jump sounds. There's multiple jump effects in there, and there was one I couldn't pick out. It almost sounded like obviously the mushroom when you're growing, but there was like one I can't remember. It almost sounded like water or something, but I'm trying to think what that was, but maybe you guys know. Anyways, so the track that brought us in was Mario, Link, and Yoshi, which is the title screen from Tetris DS, composed and arranged from the various sound effects by Minako Hamano and Akira Fujiwara.
All right, so a little bit about the game. Tetris DS was a very Nintendo-branded version of that classic puzzle game that everyone's played, and it took loads of inspiration from the previous versions of Tetris and mixed them together with Nintendo's top 8-bit franchises, creating a unique spin on a very well-loved game.
Yeah, and this is an excellent version as well. Yeah. It was released on the Nintendo DS in March of 2006, appearing first in the US, and then it made its worldwide release shortly after in the same year. It was published by Nintendo and developed by the in-house software group known as Nintendo SPD.
Now, we have a lot of information here, so we're going to try to go through it in a smooth fashion. But Nintendo SPD, or Nintendo Software Planning and Development Division, was created in 2003 as the successor to both Nintendo R&D 1 and R&D 2, which they roughly lasted about 12 years under those titles,
right,
until they were succeeded by Nintendo Entertainment Planning and Development, or Nintendo EPD, in 2015. Now, Nintendo SPD had two key departments. There was the Software Planning and Development Department, which did a lot of the co-produced games with external developers. And then there was the Software Development and Design Department, which focused on developing system software and also all new experimental software. SPD assisted other teams with development as well, managed overseas projects, but were largely responsible for creating innovative titles.
Right. So the Software Planning and Development Department, the first of the two that James mentioned, could be divided into 4 different production groups. Production group number 1, their primary focus was development and co-production of software for home and handheld consoles in cooperation with second-party developers. So games like WarioWare Smooth Moves, Rhythm Heaven, Tomodachi Life Game & Wario, Metroid Other M, all that stuff that we kind of saw was done by second-party developers. And, some of these are Metroid Other M. I know people don't like that one, but it still has a place in Nintendo history, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of big Nintendo franchises, or like the Game and Wario,
kind of like their
that,
side
bringing stuff back, and it's
right,
pretty cool.
Right, and then kind of out of order here, production group number 3, they were responsible for overseeing the development of titles from the Metroid Prime, Battalion Wars, Mario Super Strikers, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, Sight Bike, Paper Mario, Fluidity, and Donkey Kong Country series. So they did a bunch of more, maybe not the highest, the highest cash cows, but kind of like the second important stuff.
Well, and you can see some of the innovation, like Paper Mario, that was very different, very unique. Metroid Prime was hugely different for the Metroid series. So taking some of these big risks, Donkey Kong Country, all that stuff is really neat to see.
Right. So production group number 4, they were responsible for overseeing the development of titles from the Mario Party, Donkey Kong, and Wii Party series. And then circling back to production group number 2, their primary focus was the production and co-development with Japanese third-party developers, like the F-Zero series with Suzak, Fire Emblem series with Intelligent Systems, and the Dr. Mario and Endless Ocean series with Eureka, and then stuff like more recently Xenoblade Chronicles series with Monolith Soft. So this group, though, is important for us because they're the ones that developed Tetris DS. Yeah. All right, so let's get into some more music. We're going to start with kind of the, the classic Tetris DS music here. We're going to start with Mario Tetris, and we'll be right back.
You just heard Mario Tetris, arranged by Minako Hamano and Akira Fujiwara for Tetris DS.
It's a pretty cool version, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's very club. I'm not usually into like the da, da, da,
Yeah.
but I mean, this is cool. I mean, it's weird. It reminds me of how good just Mario is, like the music, it really is. I mean, yeah, we hear it so much, we kind of get jaded by it, but I mean, really, it's an excellently composed soundtrack, and having this kind of spin on it is really fun. It makes it kind of like a Tetris rave or something.
Right. No, I mean, Mario music is one of the most recognizable, video game soundtracks out there. I can't tell you how many times that people have heard that I do a video game music podcast that are not gamers, and they just start humming the Mario music. I'm like, well, we don't really play Mario music, but I guess I can't say that anymore. But yeah, Nintendo is such masters of nostalgia. Even though the song is very different than the original, yeah, it's just takes you back. Even though it's so bassy and beefy, it's just reminds you of sitting there playing Mario.
Yeah, and I mean, you do lose a little bit of the that bass when you're playing it on the DS, unless you have headphones on.
Right.
You get small speakers, so you lose some of that thud. But when you're listening like we are with these massive cans on, you really get like each one of those kicks,
and you get everything.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's some little parts in there that it is one of the longer tracks in the game. There's some parts in there that it sounds like little tiny like in the background. You can barely make it up. It's like that B section. The first part where it kind of dies down, it's dun 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 dun, and then it kind of goes into this dun 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 dun, and it just kind of like it kind of floats in this no man's territory. It's not like really part of the song,
right?
And I kept waiting for that to happen, and it comes in like a minute and a half in, so like halfway through the song, you finally hear it, and then it's like, okay, now I feel content. I needed to hear that. But yeah, it's a really cool arranged version. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we'll definitely talk about where this comes into play while you're playing the game when we get into some more of the gameplay sections. But it's just really fun, and it right off the bat, it's just such a unique little Tetris game.
It is. So no Mario music would be complete without some basement Mario music. So let's go ahead and listen to the basement Tetris, and we'll be right back.
You just heard the underground theme from Tetris DS, arranged by Minako Hamano and Akira Fujiwara.
It's kind of simple, right? I mean, it's like da 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 da.
Yeah.
Da 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 da.
This is actually the song that people hum to me when they find out I do a podcast about video game music. But it's, I mean,
you get the little ride in there that.
Yeah, the little hi-hats
or
whatever
hi-hats,
were a very nice addition to it. And it's just so neat to see this very dark theme get mixed into the game. It was one of my favorite themes, even though it is super, super simple.
I think this is when you're actually like about to die or something or lose in Tetris. Like they start playing this.
Yeah, it starts getting more intense.
Because it is kind of it is kind of dark. So real quick, this game, before we start talking about it, I do want to talk about my kind of history with it. I didn't pick it up when the day it was released. I have a really good friend named Cody, and he actually listens to the show. And I remember he sent me a text one day. I think we had cell phones then. Yeah, we must have. Yeah, I think we had cell phones. 2006, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Trying to think. I'm like, how did we communicate back then? It wasn't like email or IRC. It was something else. But yeah, I think we had cell phones at this point. And he texted me. He's like, dude, have you played Tetris DS? It just came out. And I'm like, no, I haven't picked it up. And he was like, no, you got to go grab it. And he doesn't usually, like, unless a game's like really good, he won't just go say that,
Right.
So I have friends who are like, oh, you pick it up, it's awesome, like for everything.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, so I picked it up. I think it was like $40, and which was kind of steep for Tetris that I've played a billion times.
Right. It's come out on like every console since the dawn of time of
Right.
video gaming. I mean, not just Nintendo consoles, it's been out there everywhere.
Right. And so he told me to pick it up, and I got it, and I he was telling me about like how the scoring works, like how it's really unique, and you can like there's all sorts of different modes and stuff you can do. And being Nintendo fanboys, he was like, you're gonna love it. And so I picked it up, and we'll get more into like the multiplayer aspect, but that was one of the main reasons, so we could do some kind of online stuff. And I have I've always kept this in the back of my mind. In fact, this episode I brought up to you like a long time ago. I was like, hey, we should do like Tetris DS at some point, because it's a remix of a lot of old classic songs. And that's kind of why we spawned this episode, I think. But good game. I've had it you played my original version this morning.
Yeah,
actually.
I was playing it today.
Yeah,
and I was like, wanted to just keep playing.
Yeah,
of
I was like, hey James, help me set up, man. Get off that game. Anyways, so let's talk about this the gameplay a little bit.
Yeah, and like what Brian was saying, one of the great things about the DS is that it had multiplayer very easily available. You didn't have to have all these cables and cords and dual cartridges and everything like that. So this game actually supports up to 10 local players with several different modes to play through. Lots of recognizable Nintendo franchises built into each of the different modes.
Right. And then there was the Nintendo Wi-Fi, it was called Nintendo Wi-Fi. Yeah, it was Nintendo Wi-Fi, and you could play online battles. I think it did up to 4 players online, but I think that like most I ever did was really like 2. But yeah,
I mean, it was such a unique aspect of the system, going from the Game Boy Advance and all the different iterations of that to the DS, which had so much more
real connectivity, online stuff.
So like we said, this game has several different modes, like you would expect from any Tetris game. There's more than one. Well, this game has several different modes. It's jam-packed with all kinds of new gameplay and fresh new features. But first, we're going to start off with the standard mode, which is what you'd expect from Tetris, standard Tetris gameplay.
Just your basic playfield kind of Tetris,
yeah. Except for it has a little bit of a twist in this version, which is kind of nice. So there's marathon mode, which ends at level 20, and after beating that, you unlock endless mode. And the really cool thing about this game, which took advantage of the DS's dual screen, is the twist feature. At the very top of the screen, there is a animation that's playing, and it's of the original Mario.
Right.
And it was really neat to see, because the way that the game progresses at the top is how you're playing in Tetris at the bottom. So imagine the very first Mario game where you start out and there's the block and the Goomba and then the little pyramid of blocks that you die a million times. So Mario will, on his own, move around in that area, and he won't progress to the part where there's the green tubes until you clear a line. So if you play this game and you're clearing lines pretty smoothly,
Mario's animation will be smooth through the level.
Yeah, he kind of gets trapped at the end of the screen and will run around and until you clear a line, and then he'll move to the next screen, which is really cool to watch. It's such a neat feature.
Very distracting, but at the same time, it's very cool. It's like eye candy. You don't have to even look at it if you don't want. It doesn't really do anything other than just, eye candy.
Yeah.
If you ever played Mario Teaches Typing, you would be very familiar with like the aspect of this, because in Mario Teaches Typing, you would you have to complete a word. I mean, if I remember correctly, it's been like 20 something, 30 years. Jesus.
And go back and play that now that we can type without even looking at the keyboard.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, so you'd have to complete a word, and then Mario could like jump and then move on to the next, next part of the level, and you just had to keep typing to make him move around. Same kind of aspect, except it's Tetris, and you're aligning the tetraminos into like lines, and I mean then he progresses. So.
Yeah, and it's very fun. There's all kinds of other flashy aspects to the screen, which we'll probably touch on more when we get into the graphics and things like that. But like you would think, this mode features Mario throughout the entire mode, and it's not just the original Super Mario Bros. 1. There's Mario Bros. 3, all kinds of different stuff. It's pretty neat. So this features that backdrop, puts the Mario 3 and music, with the exception of levels 16 through 19, which use the Rush Tetris theme, which is that more intense Tetris sound,
right.
Which is pretty neat. So an endless mode has a very similar animation to the marathon mode, except for it repeats after you passing level 20.
Right. So. Do you know, is it all Mario 1? I think there's Mario 3 in there too.
Yeah, there's Mario 3, and so I was really surprised when it changed, because I thought I was going to end up beating multiple levels, or maybe even go progress through the full game of the original Mario or something like that.
Right.
But after a certain point, I don't remember which level, maybe after the underground level, it switches to Mario 3 and stuff like that.
Oh, I see.
It's kind of neat. It was an interesting surprise. It kind of kept me on my toes, I guess.
Yeah, so the original Mario Brothers doesn't really make an appearance in this mode, the one 1983, the published by Atari one. But then, yeah, Super Mario Brothers from 1985, Mario 3 from 1988. Just a lot of nostalgia there,
yes.
For everybody who had an NES growing up. So they're totally milking that franchise, that those Mario games for this Tetris mode.
Like I said, Nintendo is the masters of nostalgia, and they use nostalgia to sell a very good Tetris game.
Yeah. So speaking of more nostalgia, the next track we're going to play is called Total Yoshi, and this is from Yoshi's Cookie, arranged by Minako Hamano and Akira Fujiwara.
You just heard Total Yoshi, arranged by Minako Hamano and Akira Fujiwara for Tetris DS.
This is a pretty cool little slow down club mix of Yoshi Cookie.
I got a little bit of like a reggae feel to it, like kind of very slow and like fluid. This is not Yoshi's Cookie is not a game I spent a ton of time with. I do have a copy.
Right.
It's just not a puzzle game that immediately caught on for me, but I know there's a lot of people that really love Yoshi's Cookie out there.
It's a good game. I didn't play a whole lot of it either. I think I borrowed it from like a friend for a few months, and I was into it. I had it for the NES, and so it was fun. It just wasn't like Tetris for me or anything. It wasn't like to that caliber, but it was fun.
Yeah, but Yoshi in general is a massive character for Nintendo that has huge amounts of love. So I can see them being like, "What can we add in here that's Yoshi?"
Oh yeah. Yoshi's Cookie. Yeah.
But this plays during the puzzle mode, right?
Yeah. This is the puzzle mode. So again, this whole puzzle mode is based on Yoshi's Cookie theme, which kind of goes with. I mean, the whole game is a puzzle, right? It's Tetris,
right.
But this mode gives you like this kind of garbage stacked block. Like this whole block of garbage stacked stuff with gaps and all this. If you ever played other version, I'm trying to think of another version of Tetris that does this. Maybe Tetris 2 on the NES. Basically, they just give you a ton of garbage at the bottom of the screen,
right.
And you have to kind of clear it out and all the gaps and stuff. There's no lines already there for you, so you have to kind of work your way down and clean everything up.
Right, you kind of like not make it worse. But I imagined it as like one of your siblings has been playing and they're like, "Oh, I can't do this," and take over and like, "All right, let me clean this up.
Let me clean this garbage up for you." So it's kind of like that. Yoshi's Cookie. The track's cool though. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's goofy. I like it. Do you want to hear the original real quick?
Yeah, I think it'd be great to have a little bit of a comparison, because some of these things, if you haven't heard them for years, you might think like, "Oh yeah, this is extremely close to the original." It's like, no,
a little bit different. So here is it's music type A. So it's like different music, and I think this is the right one. I like that little that upstroke is just a boop.
Yeah.
Still got that island vibe though. Yoshi's Island
Yeah.
vibe.
Yeah, that little bit of the island theme. But we did notice that this song has that "Don't Take My Sunshine Away" part. Like,
Oh
to
yeah,
it.
yeah. We're kind of singing along with
Yeah.
it. Don't take my sunshine away. Wait, how's it go now? I don't even remember.
It's like, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. That song.
Yeah.
If you wait a few seconds into the track, it'll become very apparent now.
And then I'm sure that's where they got the inspiration for
Yeah.
it. But then it kind of like branches off into its own thing. I think we were trying to sing along and it like all of a sudden it stopped working. We're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. Anyways, so again, this is just like a nostalgia rush episode. So let's get into another track. This is an excellent one. It's called Metroid Charge, which is during the catch mode. So let's take a listen. We'll be right back.
You just heard Metroid Charge, arranged by Minako Hamano and Akira Fujiwara for Tetris DS.
Yeah, again, this plays during the catch mode, and we'll talk about that in a sec. This track, always love this one.
Oh yeah,
You can't not love it.
This is this track I hear a lot all the time with watching a lot of people play Metroid, and it's just such a great song. This version of it reminds me of like a space alien orchestra. Like it's like otherworldly a little bit.
The samples are really clean. The bass sample and stuff, they're really rounded but kind of punched too. So yeah, I can kind of see it. It's kind of like an alien bass.
Yeah, it has that kind of like I can't really explain it. It feels like foggy and like I don't know.
With those 80 synths,
Yeah.
kind of on top of everything there. It starts off like when I first started, I was like, this is Metroid. Like
Yeah.
you didn't add anything to it.
Yeah.
The Brinstar theme, it was like, this is just it. And then all of a sudden when like it picks up and you go dun da 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 da, then you get the. You want to listen to the original a little bit?
I thought the transition was a little abrupt between the more classic.
It gets pretty loud. Yeah.
But I did like this theme a lot.
Yeah. Here's the Brinstar theme, the original. So instead of the square waves, basically you're getting like these nice synths. The bass really isn't all that different, It's just that triangle wave,
Yeah.
I guess it sounds pretty much the same. Maybe just a little louder.
Right. It was interesting to see that this track wasn't entirely reworked. There were parts that felt very much like the original, whereas like some of the other songs that we'll play today feel like the entire song has kind of been overworked.
Redone,
But this mode was probably one of the modes that I was most interested in when I first started looking into the game, because it's probably one of the most unique and different ones that I noticed.
Right. So tell us about catch mode.
So in catch mode, it utilizes the dual screen, but you have this little square. I think it's a 4x4 square that starts out in the center of the screen, and you can move it around and rotate it. But what happens is there's Tetraminos that are falling from the upper screen. And when they reach the lower screen, you can make it touch that little 4x4 block and make it build into a bigger square. So you can continue rotating it as the blocks, as the Tetraminos fall.
Right.
You can't rotate the Tetraminos, which does make it kind of difficult. You kind of have to use them in the shape.
Instead, you rotate around them.
Right. You rotate your block, and you can actually get a Tetramino to attach to your the part that you move around from the top, the bottom, the sides. So you can wait for it to come to the side and bump up against it, and it'll attach, or we'll let it go past you and go down and touch it.
You know what this reminds me of? This mode reminds me of two things. First of all, Katamari Damacy for the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, growing the ball into something much bigger.
Like
which
it's so. I mean, there's
game.
a lot of similarities there, and then also a game that came out on the Game Boy Color. It was called Clustar. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
I've heard of it. I've never played it though.
It's pretty much this. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing where you build Tetraminos. You can't rotate them, but you can rotate your. I think you can rotate your. I can't remember if you can rotate it or not, but like you basically can move around and collect them, much like kind of garbage collection in the same vein as this. So clear inspiration.
Yeah, and the thing that's really neat is once you collect enough blocks, I don't remember the size, if it's like a 10 by 10 series of blocks, but it turns gray and it starts blinking.
Right.
And after a certain amount of time, it'll explode in 4 directions. So straight up, straight down, to the right, and to
Like
the left.
Bomberman, yeah.
Right. And what happens is while the Tetraminos are falling, there's also Metroids that are falling. And what you need to do is get the blocks ready to explode, and you can either make it explode immediately by hitting the X button and kill the Metroid, or you can wait for it to explode while you make the blocks bigger, because the larger you make the bomb, the more points that you get. But if you let it explode and it doesn't kill a Metroid, I don't think you get extra points for that. So this mode is very...
Un-Tetris like?
Yeah, it's well, in a sense, yeah, it's very different way of playing Tetris, kind of like Tetris 2, I thought was very different, but I really liked it. It took a while to get used to it, but it became very fun to play. And there's a little meter at the bottom that tells you what level you're getting up to. So
kind of looks like Metroid, the meter in Metroid on the
NES. And it starts falling faster and faster. And while the things are scrolling, you get to see like more still scrolling images from the Metroid game. So like Samus jumping in all the areas that have all the platforms. Kind
of like the vertical areas in Metroid 1. Yeah.
So it was a really neat, really cool game that I would like to play some more of this catch mode.
Yeah. So yeah, based on the original Metroid, 1986. Came out, NES, arcade, and the Versus stuff.
Yeah, all kinds of virtual consoles.
Been out everywhere. But it was a really cool way to add Metroid in to this game. Like how are you gonna, Mario? Okay, let's just do the standard thing, right? But in Yoshi, we'll have a little like kind of puzzling element, which is bizarre in itself. And then Metroid, what are we going to do to make something different?
Yeah.
Catch mode, sure, why not?
Yeah, it was a fun way to kill Metroids, and it feels like a brain teaser. Like it feels like it should work, but you're rotating yourself and not the Tetraminos.
Yeah.
So you kind of get like finger dumb for a few minutes, and then you start to figure out how to play.
All right, so we're talking about all these different modes of Tetris. Let's take a leap back over to the original Tetris, the thing that started out. For me, I started on the Game Boy and then eventually bought the NES version. But let's listen to this track. It's called Ancient Tetris, which makes me feel really old because that's how I started. It's called Ancient Tetris for Tetris DS.
You just heard Ancient Tetris for Tetris DS.
You know, this tune is always going to be a very loved track by me and pretty much everybody else who played Tetris. This is kind of I guess this is one of the most recognizable songs to me. You know, it's that Russian folk, you know, kind of polka style track. I love it. Like, I really do. This is a really cool arrangement.
Oh, yeah. I really liked how, that the original Tetris song has always felt kind of frantic and fun. But this, it took it to another level of, being very frantic and fast-paced feeling. But it also added a layer of drama to it. I thought it was not just all super fun. It had like this kind of not stressful, but like this real dramatic feel, like to certain sections of the song. I really liked it.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes with the fact that the DS is streaming audio. There's like these real samples in there that sound like
that accordion was very cool.
Yeah. Whereas Tetris on the Game Boy and the NES, I mean, you basically are just playing with square waves, and so it sounds more robotic. It loses a lot of the Russian folk. You can still hear that in there, the inspiration, but you lose that kind of like merriness to it, I guess. Do you want to hear the original? I mean, might as well here. Yeah, so you can hear that was the Game Boy version. You can hear how it loses some of that jolly good drunken time.
Yeah, it's still bright and cheery, but for me, like that dramatic section, I feel like is definitely missing from the original. But I really like both versions of the song. I mean, Tetris is one of the most widely reproduced games ever.
Yeah,
and I'm happy to know that. Our kids will probably still be playing new versions of Tetris.
Oh yeah. When it's not going anywhere.
So it's great to see. This is such a fun game. It's like the perfect type of puzzle game. I mean, anyone can pick it up and play it, and it's
very intuitive.
Yeah.
Right. The next track we're gonna play is actually special. My mom was the first one that got in my house. Was the first one that got the 10,000 Tetris Points marks. So
that's awesome.
This track is very nostalgic for me. So let's listen to 10,000 Tetris Points. Nice little fanfare.
Oh, yeah.
That was 10,000 Tetris Points for Tetris DS, arranged by Minako Hamano and Akira Fujiwara. It's just it's a short track, but I really like that.
Yeah.
It just makes me feel so happy. Like, oh
yeah,
my God, it did it.
It's very beautiful. I love this version too, where it starts off very similar to the original, and then it slowly builds.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I thought that was a really cool touch. And one thing that you might be noticing now is that the way that they approached rearranging these tracks is very different from track to track, which is really cool to see. It's not just, all right, let's just start the track off and
add some drums behind it. Yeah.
It's like each one has a different way that they're enhancing the original music.
Right. The original Tetris, though, I mean, it's just it's so classic. It's so part of our lives. I mean, everybody knows it. Everybody knows Tetris as well as they do Mario.
Yeah.
Awesome to listen to. Anyways, so let's talk about the composers and the arrangers for this version. We haven't really talked about them yet. So.
Yeah, we have plenty more modes to go. So let's take a little break from all the different modes and talk about the people that helped make this sound what it was.
Right. So first off, both composers in Tetris DS, there was Minako Hamano and Akira Fujiwara. They were employed as music staff for Nintendo, and now under the planning and development department. At least Hamano is right now. So Minako Hamano, she got her start composing Link's Awakening on the Game Boy alongside Kozue Ishikawa and Kozumi Totaka, but became a really huge integral part of Nintendo's sound team, composing for Super Metroid, Metroid Fusion and Zero Mission, Wario World, Mario Kart, Donkey Kong Returns, Metroid Prime 3, and dozens of other titles. She did all sorts of like sound effects and sound produce and dozens of stuff. She's done a lot.
Yeah, what an action-packed resume right there. I mean, she started out on Link's Awakening, considered one of the best Links ever. And
that soundtrack like broke my heart.
Yeah, I remember you were telling me that.
When
I picked it up in the eShop, you're like, I think this is the first game that made me cry a little.
Yeah, it was like tears of joy or something. Yeah. I remember I played it in.
I got something in my eye.
Yeah, I played it in my bed. Like my parents wouldn't let me play Game Boy at night when it was time to sleep. So I would I slept on the top bunk with my brother being underneath, and I would put on the little headphones, the little blue and red ones that came with the system, and I had one of those light boys that you attach. It's like a magnifying glass, probably burning your retinas out, but I had that, and I would play this game late at night. Anyways, the other arranger for this album was Akira Fujiwara. Not as much in the audio department as far as what Hamano did, but Fujiwara worked on Master of Illusion, which is like a brain training exercise game for the DS, sound programming on Super Princess Peach, and a bit of the sound arrangement for Metroid Fusion. And whether or not Fujiwara still works at Nintendo it's a question, since it's been 12 years since any other credits pop up. But that doesn't mean, that he's no longer there. He might be doing some more, admin stuff and just not have his name in the credits. Might, be lurking around the offices, the Nintendo Kyoto offices somewhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but excellent composers for what they did. I mean, they're taking classic stuff and they're rearranging it in kind of a fun, more frantic way, and you can't really do wrong by by arranging these classics anyway.
Well, and for me, one of the things when I first started getting into game music is that I kind of assumed that people that did more heavy on arrangement stuff were maybe not considered as good of composers, or were given kind of jobs as more like starting out or something like that, kind of like, let's test this person. But obviously with these composers here, they were the cream of the crop, and it was like, here, have fun.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Arranging stuff, it's like, kind of take, you
already have the framework there.
You're having sloppy seconds on a track, right? But it's quite the opposite. So these tracks are so well regarded that if they messed up, if they had somebody who just completely screwed up the track, I don't know how you could, but if they did, then it would be like a disaster.
Yeah, it would be like trying to remake a Beatles song and seeing how people respond to that. But my opinion on people that do arranging has definitely changed over seeing, especially when we did the music disc volumes. You get to see some of the crazy amazing stuff that people can do, taking the original framework and going way off the rails or being very true to it. So it's very amazing, and this has just been such a fun episode so far.
Right. So we got another block of music. James, what do we got?
Next up we have is Tetris Climber, and we'll be right back.
All right, that was Tetris Climber for Tetris DS, arranged by Minako Hamano and Akira Fujiwara.
Yeah, this is a fun little track. It's pretty repetitive, and I like how
Well, the original was extremely repetitive.
A lot of the original NES music is pretty repetitive, but I like how, it does a couple little loops and then it adds a little bit more to it. So it's like right when you're starting to feel like, okay, this is going to be pretty repetitive. I probably heard it all already.
It's funny.
Builds a little.
Yeah, it's funny to me because it's got like this Caribbean vibe to it. And this is Ice Climbers theme. Music, right?
Yeah, it's Ice Climbers.
Do you want to hear the original?
Yeah.
Just get a comparison here. It's the main theme. Quite the departure. This is the biggest change, I think, out of all the tracks. But no, it's fun. You get the steel drum kind of sounds in there. Reminds me of samples from like Super Mario World or something.
Well, if you think about to people, the being in the snow and stuff is very cold, but to like polar bears and seals, it might feel tropical to them.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Wasn't there a bear that wore like swimming trunks or something?
Oh, yeah, that wasn't Ice Climbers, was it?
I know they probably became a little more prominent in like Smash Brothers and stuff like that, but for the Ice Climber levels,
it's gonna drive me nuts.
But I thought there was like animals.
Maybe it was Ice Climbers.
Yeah. Well, I know in like Smash Brothers, I think in the level there's like a bear wearing like shorts, but I would assume that came from somewhere. I didn't play a lot of Ice Climbers. It's a fun game, but it's actually pretty frustrating.
The controls, like the jump, is like as bad as like the original Mario Brothers.
Well, any game that's like 100% ice physics is just, I don't know if I want to touch it.
Yeah. So let's get into our next track. This is Destruction Trip, which plays during touch mode.
You just heard Destruction Trip from Tetris DS.
This, I mean, it's your balloon fight.
Yeah.
It doesn't really sound like there's that much of a departure from the original. I mean, maybe the bass, a few new samples thrown in, but I like this track. I do.
I love the balloon fight music. That's a game I didn't play on the NES at all, but I really enjoyed balloon fight on the Wii U on Nintendo Land.
That was so fun, dude.
Yeah,
I loved
Nintendo Land. I was really happy that I bought the deluxe Wii U that came with that.
Right,
I thought
right.
Nintendo Land was the only game I played for a long time, but I had a lot of fun with it. I wonder how different the Wii U version of that song is compared to this DS version.
Right.
I love the balloon fight mechanics. I love the gameplay. I think
everything about it.
It's a super fun game.
I wish that. Well, the original is like so frantic and so fast that it's difficult. But that Wii U one, man, I wish that they would release that as like a $5 exclusive for like the Switch.
Yeah,
that would be incredible. They could totally. Oh man, Nintendo, listen.
Yeah, that actually reminded me. I don't know if any of you have played. I believe it's called Balloon Kid on the Game Boy, but the Wii U version of Balloon Kid on the Nintendo Land is very, very similar to Balloon Kid on the Game Boy.
Yeah.
So it reminded me a lot more of that than the original NES. But this is such a cool version. It's such a great song. I don't really know that much about touch mode. It wasn't one that I played a lot.
Right. Basically, touch mode had touch capabilities.
Yeah,
I mean,
you would expect
that was the whole thing. Like a lot, it was like the touch generations thing that Nintendo was doing with their DS. They were making a lot of games that really utilized the stylus and you know, being able to kind of interact with the game.
Yeah,
in a different way.
It was one of the huge selling points of the DS. Play a game totally different way. We've seen games that have done it really poorly, and games like Lock's Quest that have done it really amazingly.
Yeah.
So it was kind of neat to see.
And I'm not a huge fan of stylus-based games, but Lock's Quest was one of the good ones, for sure.
At least it didn't have motion controls.
Yeah. No, so for this, what it is use the stylus to slide and move pieces around by kind of adding or by sliding stuff almost like a jigsaw puzzle kind of thing. But the pieces can't be rotated. And so you kind of have to like come up with your own. Did you ever play like Puzznic or anything like that?
I don't think I played Puzznic, but I saw there was a lot of app games when phones, there was like you have a set number of pieces and you have to slide things around to make them all lock in.
Right. So a clear influence for this mode was a game called Klotsky, which is actually this really old, I guess it's like wood blocks, and you play in this square and you kind of move stuff around with like a kind of like a stylus before the stylus, you know?
Yeah.
And you actually move stuff around on a physical board and you kind of make different shapes and stuff like that. I didn't play it too much, but I did kind of look into it, and I was like, this is exactly where it came from.
Yeah, it sounds like another really fun mode that takes advantage of one of the key features of the DS.
Right. Okay, so we talked about, music a lot. Why don't we just briefly focus on the graphics for a second here, because I think, that's something we always like to kind of bring up, because a audio podcast, you don't really get to see it, but hopefully a lot of you played this game, so you can kind of relate.
And you have the internet, so you can check it out if you can't play it on like emulation or find it. I'm sure a lot of these games that we cover are not terribly expensive. They're more obscure. We do occasionally have some that are in the hundreds of dollars to pick up a physical copy of, but if you can view stuff on the internet. If
you still have a 3DS laying around, and or you're still playing your 3DS or your original DS, you still got it, and you don't have a copy of Tetris, you should. It's totally worth it.
Yeah.
The graphics are gorgeous. Like everything's bright. Even though it's an older game and it's scaled a little bit differently. I was playing it on my 3DS, and you were too, and it looks gorgeous. It still looks really, really clean. Graphics again, really bright, making use of those. Nintendo, those 8-bit kind of backgrounds and also 8-bit sprites. They have some kind of rotation stuff going on. All of the Tetraminos have like a very nice kind of shine color to them. Mario, like the levels that James was explaining up in the top screen of the DS, they have kind of like their own backdrop sometimes too, which was kind of weird. It's like pre-rendered background.
They're kind of like they're not like photos, but they look like something maybe from the 64 or the GameCube that's kind of tossed in the background there. But
so like Metroid, the Catch one, for example, it's got like this kind of like, it's almost like this textured like granite background on top of like your
a planet texture
on top of like your just normal Metroid sprites. So it's kind of weird. Mario's got like this mountain range in the back that looks like somebody just took a photo of like some countryside and blurred it,
but with the like little Mario clouds still at the top. It's kind of funny, but this game is very flashy. It's got a lot of stuff going on. I mean, it has big pictures of the characters next to the play fields because the play field does feel kind of small because it the original didn't have anywhere near the resolution of the DS or the shape. So you have all these cool sprites and images and textures going on all over the place. One thing I don't think we touched about with the main gameplay or the normal-ish gameplay is that you can see a whole bunch of the upcoming Tetraminos. It's not just like you see the next one. You can see a total of the next six upcoming blocks. Plus, you can swap one out. So when one's falling, if you hit one of the trigger buttons, you can actually swap the block for what you have saved.
Your reserve Tetramino. Yeah.
So if you're always waiting for one of those, single long 4 blocks, you can just swap it out and save it. But this game is really fun. It's really beautiful. they put a lot of time into, like the scoring and the levels and the nostalgia. Like one of my favorite ones that I'm seeing is the Donkey Kong level, which I think we're going to get into.
Yeah,
it's
we haven't
really
talked about it
cool
yet,
looking.
but that is the most gorgeous. And I'm a huge fan of Donkey Kong, like the original. I mean, I have a poster like right next to us of like, the whole lattice and everything, and it looks gorgeous. It looks so good. That's during push mode, and we'll talk about that soon. But yeah, the graphics are incredible. And this is what I think sold the game for me. It's so flashy, so 8-bit, so heavily just pumped full of nostalgia goodness. And then you get all these cool Tetris modes on top of it. One thing that I was talking to Gene a few weeks ago, and he was like, I told him we were going to do a Tetris DS episode, and he was, you should really look into a game called Minako Soft Series Tetris Advance. I was like, why do you say that? And he's like, there's like a lot of inspiration there, I think, for where they borrowed some of the graphics. And sure enough, in 2003, Minako Soft Series Tetris Advance came out in Japan only, for the Game Boy Advance. And it was both published and developed by Success. Now, he brought this up, and at first I was like, okay, so maybe they use some of the same, tiles or something like that. How close can it be? It's Tetris, every Tetris kind of looks alike, right? But sure enough, man, like the playfield and the graphics look nearly identical. So it looks like Nintendo either, maybe they just said, hey guys, we're going to steal your idea.
Yeah, we're Nintendo. What are you going to do?
Yeah, like what are you going to do? Or they were like, hey, do you mind if we kind of recreate this game for everyone?
Acquired it for the new system or something like that.
Yeah, and I don't know the actual... There could have been some underground business stuff going on there.
Yeah,
or
any number of different things could have happened where the rights to this is no longer, anything to dispute over, or there could have been some type of deal, like you said, where...
Yeah.
Let's make a new game.
But it makes me want to play, Minako Soft Series Tetris Advance, because like if I had a Game Boy Micro, which I no longer have, which
I've always wanted one, but they're kind of expensive.
They're super expensive. This would be one that I'd probably keep in my system like all the time.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Anyways, let's get into some more music. The next one is another classic. This is Zelda Tetris, and this plays during the mission mode.
You just heard Zelda Tetris from Mission Mode on the Tetris DS.
This one, okay, look, I love Zelda music. This is probably the least impressive remix for me, because it's really like the original, sound music is very in the forefront, and then just that drum and bass just sounds like that's all that was added on. Now I know I was listening carefully, and there is some synths and stuff on top, some extra samples thrown in, but really it's a great tune. Don't get me wrong, it's a really great track, and I love this version of it. It just didn't. I feel like they could have done some more with it. That's all.
I think that this song has a very different feeling to it than the original. The original is very adventurous and epic and grand, where this one feels kind of silly. It reminds me of like a 80s or 90s club, and you'd see Link with like black light paint on, or neon clothes and like a glow stick sword, like dancing. Like, it's just so silly, and that's great. I think that feeling and that imagery
it
fits with
over,
Tetris very well, like the very bright Tetris. But it just took a song that was very epic and grand and like, wow, this is like
adventurous, and it made it like
kind of,
Joe's
kind of
nightclub.
silly. Yeah.
So mission mode. This one can be played either alone or competitively. On the top screen displays the mission and the hearts that kind of work as a timer. And you have until all the hearts run out to complete the mission, and then you are given a new task as the hearts are refilled, and you kind of start this kind of cycle over and over. So an example of a mission objective is to clear 3 lines at once using L-shaped pieces only. It gets really tough this way, and this kind of makes it... I don't know. I thought this mode was really fun.
Yeah, it definitely sounds very hard where it's like, like that one there, you have to clear 3 lines, and when you clear them, it has to be an L-shaped piece that clears the 3 lines, and it's like...
Right. Well, it's a different way of thinking. We've been playing Tetris knowing that there's some level of randomization going on, right? And so we were expecting... when we get we can leave a spot open and be like, oh, when I get that, that T-shaped piece, I know I'm going to move it over here, but that never comes. So we have to just think of, okay, we only have these, 3x2 L-shaped bracket. What are we going to, where are we going to put this, and where are we going to use the rest of them to line up to get it?
Right.
So yeah, it's a really cool spin.
But yeah, it's definitely like a brain teaser, a fun spin on classic Tetris gameplay.
Yeah. With Zelda on top. Yeah. 1987, came out for 1 million systems, and now it's on your Tetris DS, on a DS near you.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get into... We were talking about the Donkey Kong level a little bit. Let's get into the track that plays during push mode, which is called DK Push.
You just heard DK Push for Tetris DS.
There's 5 or 6 themes kind of going on in that song, and they all are really cool. And then when you put them all together, they sound like a goddamn mess, dude.
Yeah.
That's a very confusing track.
It's a very chaotic...
there's parts that I like, though. After you get past that... Okay, in the beginning there, it's got this, just sound over the top, and you're like, oh my god, this sounds so dissonant.
Probably like, oh, I love that sound.
Yeah.
How can we get that into a song? Just
but after that cuts out, it's actually really, really cool.
Yeah.
I do like that they keep that dum dum da da dum dum in kind of that theme the whole way through. It just, man, it's so chaotic. I don't know if it works or it doesn't. I don't know if I like it or hate it. I don't know.
You start to get used to it. At first, it's very
disorienting.
Yeah, you're just like, what am I listening to? Did they put the wrong track in there? And this is like, I don't know. It's you get used to it a little bit, and like you said, it does have some very cool parts to it. To me, it felt like mixing some of the different volumes of what was going on might have made it a little more easy to listen to. This is not really a track you're gonna play in your car while you're driving around, but
you probably are if you're listening to this podcast right now. So sorry about that.
It's this is not a mode that I played since I didn't have a lot of time to play this game, and Brian was busy. He was like, "Hey, did you bring your 3DS?" And I was like, "No, I didn't, because I don't have this game." He's like, "Well, there's some things you can play. I don't know if you can play this, but
where you can download it and you get I believe this is the one where you can. Nintendo did several games where they had you only need one cartridge, and you can do download play or offline or whatever it is play, where you just kind of download a fraction of the game, just for that mode. I know Mario Kart did it, and a few other titles did it. I believe this is the one.
Yeah, so I don't know how this track fits into the gameplay. The look, like we were mentioning before, the look of this mode is very cool, and it sounds like a really fun mode. But I don't know if I might want to turn the volume down if I can't get used to this track.
Yeah, well, let me tell you about this push mode a little bit. It's a competitive. It's all competitive. It's basically just try to take out the other player, but you can play it alone or versus a computer, or you can play it through the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection. It's interesting because this mode is clearly inspired by the original PC prototype of two-player Tetris, and like the original one that I think was developed 84 to 86 or something like that. I don't have my notes in front of me, but there was Pajitov and Gerasimov and Pavlovsky, I think, that developed the original Tetris. And the original Tetris, the two-player mode, is what brought this on. And what it is each player, or the computer, starts out with a single block, right? Kind of floating somewhere in the screen, and you have to stack blocks and get that to clear the line. So it's kind of like mission mode in a sense, but like a little different skew on it. And so it kind of gives you some kind of competitive thing where it's not just about each player tries to get the other person to stack up to the top. It's not like that. It's all about, it's more of a race.
Yeah, like you would see with a lot of other two-player puzzle games like Puyo Puyo or Puchinya, like where you play well and it screws up the other player on a separate play field.
This does it as well. So you have a race to get to that block and stuff, but at the same time, you clear 3 lines, it'll send junk over to the other player. But the whole purpose isn't just to screw up the other player. It's really to be the first one to that block.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it's fun. Donkey Kong, based on the original 1986. I love Donkey Kong so much. It's such a good game for me.
Yeah, and in this mode, it's just like with the classic Tetris mode, you can still see the next upcoming 6 Tetraminos and still can save a block off to the side and swap them out as a more desirable block comes into play. So it sounds like a really fun mode.
Oh yeah, if you had your 3DS, we'd probably try it.
I'll have to bring it over next time.
Anyways, circling back up to the top of the episode, we played Mario Tetris theme. Kind of want to go back to that because in that the standard mode, you also hear music from Mario 3, and so we're going to play a track called Mario Tetris 3, and it's arranged by Minako Hamano and Akira Fujiwara.
You just heard Mario Tetris 3 for Tetris DS.
This is this is a pretty cool version. I mean, again, I'm not really into the whole club kind of thing, but when I listen to this, I think of Mario wearing like a fishnet shirt and like some spandex and just clubbing around in like this German discotheque in the 80s. And
nice.
This is the track for him.
Yeah. No, and I think this illustrates my point earlier that the Mario song, the song that this is based on for Mario 3, is a much more silly, fun type of song. It's not as grand and adventurous. So to me, I am much more open to hearing it in this type of clubby dance type track. I think it's it was kind of fun, and it is interesting to think of like all the different Mario characters dressed like they're going to the clubs. I think it'd be pretty funny.
Das Mario.
Yeah.
Anyways, so this game, we're talking about it, listening to music. It's not that we love it. It's everybody loved this. When it came out, it got amazing reviews. GameSpy, I think they gave it like number 6 handheld game of the year, something like that.
Yeah, and some very cool games were coming out at that time on the DS. So.
Everybody was giving it like very, very high scores. I think it even got, I want to say it was EGM or something like that, give it a 10 out of 10 or something. So very well loved game. It follows the same Tetris format that, I was kind of interested in like how Tetris has like kind of changed throughout different iterations. And like, there's this whole website based on like versions of Tetris and the scoring systems and how they differ. And there's like different like acronyms for like, like ARS is like some kind of like rotation thing. I can't remember. I could be butchering that, but even among like huge Tetris fans was regarded very well. And there's a lot of really cool kind of aspects to it. Endless gameplay. You can pick this up, put it down all the time, and highly recommend it.
Well, one of the great things about the expansion of video games over time is the RNG factor that, in the original, there wasn't that much space to have like everything be so random.
Right.
And now you could play the same game, but with more and more and more randomness to it, it becomes every time you play it is a totally different experience.
Right.
Which I think is kind of neat to see. But I mean, they have been just spot on with so many fun iterations of the game that feel like the original, but yet feels very different.
We need to do a Tetris episode at one point. We've already done this, but
like the Grandmaster stuff, the music is so good.
Yes. And like some of the other, like the original Tetris and like the old IBM PC Tetris, like arcade version. I mean, it's been out like on every system, every systems that we haven't even talked about like yet, like weird Tiger handhelds and like stuff like that, like it'd be really fun to kind of dig into that, some of that kind of stuff. Anyways, so today to wrap things up, we covered Tetris DS on the Nintendo DS, arranged and composed by Minako Hamano and Akira Fujiwara.
If you want to know more about our show, you can check us out online at pixelatedaudio.com for show notes and track lists. We can also be found on Twitter at pixelatedaudio, and you can join the discussion in our Discord server, which is pretty active these days, which is very good to see. So we have links on the website. So if you want to join in, Brian and I are in there all the time. Just I probably could be in there more, but it's a fun place to share tracks, and sometimes those turn into ideas for episodes.
Oh yeah, we have a suggestion box in there. And we go through it all the time. So in fact, I think 2 of those are coming up for suggesting stuff. Also, when we talk to when we do like our interviews and stuff like that, we have a channel that we want to start kind of branching out a little bit with our interviews. A lot of the time it's just James and I kind of coming up with some of our own questions, and so far it's been great. But we are gonna make announcements of composers that we're gonna have on, usually before we record. When we decide, because most of the time when we decide to have somebody on, it's because we want to have that person on. Then it's not like we don't pre-plan a lot of interviews or anything like that. But we will make an announcement in the Discord composers suggestion area and let you guys ask some questions, and we'll add that into the show as well. Yeah,
because some of you guys have had so much more intense experiences with some of these games and want to know some certain aspect about the sound.
That we may not get to, And so that would be awesome. Also, we just recently added a VGM music bot. So just added this the other day. It's actually pretty fun. Electric Boogaloo and Norm, who are kind of like moderators of our server, they go in there and you can add tracks to it, and you join the audio channel, and we're listening to video game music all day in the Discord server. It's really fun. You can add stuff in, whatever you want. It's kind of like a jukebox style kind of thing going on. So it's a lot of fun. Also, if you like the show and you want to leave us some feedback on the website, that's awesome. You can head over to patreon.com or find the link on the site if you want to support us. We want to say for our current patrons, since we didn't do the last 2 months of episodes, we are going to pause all of the Patreon donations for the next month or 2 months to just so you know, like I know
we didn't
don't
put
have
out
to.
content, so
Yeah.
we feel wrong continuing to take money without putting out more content.
Right.
So,
And I'm sure a lot of you guys support the show and you don't care, but we do. So we're not going to be charging for that. However, we want to say that we really, really appreciate your continued support. Everybody that has messaged us over the last 2 months, like, where's your show? Like, where are you guys? I thought you guys were dead. Like, I thought, like,
yeah, did something happen? We're like, no, everything's fine.
We've had so many emails and texts, and each time that we see one, it makes us happy because it means that you guys are excited to hear a show. And then I know this is a different spin from our normal kind of episodes, but hope you enjoyed it, and we're happy to be back.
Yeah, we've never done Mario, Zelda, Metroid, and here we go. We had an episode that had all three.
Yeah, we've never done a break either.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of a bunch of firsts. We do have some new show ideas lined up. Not just our normal shows, but some extra content to add in as well. And we kind of want to make this year a more fun year for getting shows out easier, quicker, and just getting more content in general. So look forward to that kind of stuff down the road. I'm going to be leaving for Japan in like a day, I think, after this comes out, or a few days after this comes out. So we might have a little delay on the next episode, but it should be still out in time if everything goes to plan. So
yeah, one of the things that we're talking about is we're going to still try to hit the 1st and 15th of every month, but we're going to give ourselves a little bit more leeway. Sometimes things pop up. We've both have found that since our lives have grown, that it sometimes can be very stress-inducing to try to meet those deadlines that we put in on ourselves. So there will be a little bit of leeway here and there, but
so like if an episode is like a day late, we're not going to stress out about it, because before we were like, no, it's the
it
first
has
of
to
the
be,
day, it has
yeah.
to be out. So this, I think it'll make it easier on us, and I know you guys don't really care. So it'll be be good.
As long as more episodes continue to flow.
Yeah.
But if you're new to the show and or you've missed out on some of our past episodes, we're almost at 100, so we have a lot of episodes for you to go through. One of my favorite recent episodes was the Wonder Boy 3 episode for Dragon's Trap, where we got to talk to the composers, people that worked on the game, and we got to play music from the new version that came out for the Switch and more modern consoles, as well as the original. Got to talk to the original composer.
Yeah,
such a fun. We had so many laughs. They were such a great group of guys to talk to.
Yeah, man, that episode, maybe because we haven't put out any other content, that show is getting so many downloads. Like every week, I'm like, oh my god, like this is getting insane.
Well, we picked a good episode to take a break after.
Yeah,
but we have like music discs and expansion packs. We're going to continue making those.
All right, hold on. Let's stop for a second here. Think of like 2 or 3 episodes that are way old that you want somebody to listen to. No, don't look it up. All
right.
I'm gonna say Kirby episode. That was episode 10.
I'm gonna say.
Maybe? No,
I don't know what episode it was. What was that? Power Quest.
Power Quest. Yeah, that was a great one. Yeah. What about Sunsoft Batman?
Oh, that'd be a good one.
Yeah, or the Outfoxies.
Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just trying to think of some old ones that we haven't talked about in a while.
Yeah.
Because we always talk about the recent ones. But.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. We're going to listen to one last track to take out the show. The track is called CongraTetris. CongraTetris. It's like congratulations, Tetris.
Great puns.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you back in a few weeks for the next episode.